right, any more questions?
Just another comment. I would like to get the since we help fund the community college, by the passage of this, it will help take the pressure off of local taxpayers to fund those projects.
All right. Anything else? Y'all have a copy of the resolution, I believe, in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, we've got another speaker that wants to speak on the issue.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I had her in public comment. Ms. Rebels? I hope I said that right.
Thank you.
He added it too. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for adding me to the agenda. I am with NC against the bond, so I'm going to be voting against the Connect NC bond, and I would like to give you some information about why I will be voting against. First of all, the Republican Party platform of North Carolina in Article 5, they state, "We believe that government at all levels must not spend money it does not have." That is what a bond is. By its very definition, the definition of a bond is an instrument of indebtedness of the bond issuer to the holders. By its very definition, a bond is a debt, and not only is it a line of credit, but you're leaving that debt to future generations of taxpayers to pay off. We just heard from our speaker that it would take at least 20 years to pay off this bond. That means a lot of the individuals who are going to be paying for it are not even old enough to have a vote in the matter. Now, I want to point out, you mentioned the money for water and sewer, and I know that was mentioned a couple of times throughout your resolution that you're going to be considering. And in the legislation for the bond and the allocations for this bond, that water and sewer money is not allocated to any specific county or any specific municipality or any specific project related to water and sewer. That line item for $309 million will go into a fund, and from there municipalities may apply to receive it in the form of grants and loans. There's another, I question that aspect of this bill, because why would our state borrow money to set it aside for future allocation, meanwhile paying hefty interest, millions of dollars of interest in the meantime? But there's a subsection here of the bill right after that allocation, subsection 3. It's called reallocation. And what this determines is that our state legislators can decide to put that money elsewhere if they choose. It states that they can reallocate the funds. So that's particularly concerning for me in regard to that water sewer line item. When you look at our history, such as the gas tax and the highway trust fund and the education lottery, what temptation to place in front of our legislators a $309 million pot of money with the provision that they can allocate it toward other purposes.
A couple other questions. First of all, you referenced the Republican Party platform, and I know that some of the members of this board pledged their loyalty to the Republican Party platform. So you're saying that we should listen to the Republican Party rather than the elected officials up in Raleigh, which, by the way, the majority are Republicans on this issue?
I was giving you the information on the Republican Party's platform stance on debt.
On bonds, okay. So what you're saying is that we should never pass bonds. So how should we, one of the biggest ways to fund schools is by passing bonds, which is creating debt. So what is your answer to raising money to pay for schools? Just raise taxes and pay as you go? I mean, what's your solution to that? Because you basically said we should never take out bonds.
Well, this particular bond is an omnibus bill, and I think there are many reasons to vote against it. However, in response to your question about how we could have funding for schools, and I think it's important to note we're not talking about K through 12 education. You're talking about infrastructure for the college system. However, as I
No,
mentioned,
you said we shouldn't take up any debt with bonds. That's what you said
I'm
earlier
talking
on.
about this bond specifically.
I know, but you talked about, you referenced the Republican Party platform, and you referenced that as the Bible, basically saying that we should never take out bonds to improve anything in our state, whether it's water bonds for water or anything else. So what's your solution? Would you rather have taxes raised?
Well, this bond will raise taxes. However, as I mentioned, our state has a $445 million revenue surplus for 2015 alone. If we look to our surplus for funding of important projects, every single project within this bond package could be fully funded within 5 years rather than taking 20 to 25 years and leaving debt and interest payments to future generations. But here's an alternative. I have a statement from A.J. Dowd, the former NC Education Lottery Commissioner. And in his opposition to this bond package, what he says is, the portion of the bill that affects improvement of education concerns me. Having been lottery commissioner, I believe tighter fiscal oversight of the lottery can provide funds for capital improvement. So what he's saying essentially is there is waste there, and we can look to other avenues for funding of important education projects. I think the answer is to prioritize.
I agree with you on the lottery money, because the state has taken lottery away from construction that was supposed to go toward construction of the schools, which in essence caused more people to take out bonds to pay for them because the money was cut from the state. So it's a catch-22, and I don't know if you know how government works, but government constantly changes. And I know you're saying something should be set in stone, but at some point, you know, and I know it's one of those hardcore realities, what we vote on is something that it's always going to happen, that future boards of any type of governing body can always change it for the most part. So that's just the reality of politics, but thank you for your time.
Okay, well, in this particular legislation, there's a specific provision that states that they may change the allocations.